Hello, Jim Howard here in Fort Worth, Texas. Today's date is June 3rd of 2021. It's about 11:30 p.m. I just finished a sandwich because I just woke up a while ago from a nap, short nap, and my stomach was growling. So I had to put something into it. But I keep up with the news. I keep up with the technical stuff too a lot. But I keep up with world news, local news, political news, and I always have since I was in grade school. Uh, and but something just it was I know it was on like there's that what in the hell they call that here in the United States, maybe it's worldwide. There's a company that very wisely, well, I guess only if they're making money from it, but I guess they are. Wherever you live, uh, you log in and give your address and what have you, and then you will see local messages that are left, and it'll be generally in your neighborhood. I mean, it'll be in your neighborhood, maybe not the apartment complex that I'm living in right now, unless somebody posts them. And it may not be the apartment complex across the street or across from there, but in your general area, your neighborhood area. And it really comes in great if you lose a dog or a cat, or you find a dog or a cat, or if your power goes off, or you hear gunshots, whatever. You post a message, or you go look, and you'll see, oh yeah, our power was off for such and such amount of time, and it's pretty neat. So uh, I do keep up on what's going on locally. And I listen every day, several times a day, to NPR radio. I use Echo. I can say Echo because I'm using the other word, and I do that on the when I go in the kitchen. Uh, I'll a lot of times wash my dishes and put them in the dishwasher. And if there's some in the sink, I'll often wash those, put those. And it's sort of my job to take them when the dishes are washed in the dishwasher, to take them out and put them away, stuff like that. I don't take the trash out so much now because it's hard for me to make it halfway to the trash container without falling over. Uh, so, okay, I was just going to say, maybe I already did. I hope I don't get sidetracked and start rambling. Anyway, I keep up on, try to keep up on locally what's going on. Um, Here is something that I just found out, and today is the 3rd, and on the 8th of this month, Amazon will automatically enable a feature on its family of hardware devices, including the Echo speakers, which we have here. I have a Echo device over there, which I don't use a lot, but it is, well, I just said I listen to NPR. Uh, anyway, then there's also that Amazon makes the Ring floodlight cameras, the Ring spotlight cameras, and some other stuff, I think. Okay, what's going to happen on the 8th, unless you go into your settings and disable it, is that those will be shared, a small part of your internet bandwidth, with your nearby neighbors. unless you choose to opt out. This is totally new to me. So part of, I guess, their project called, I guess it was originally announced in September of 2019, and Sidewalk is part of Amazon's efforts to build a long-range wireless network that leverages a combination of Bluetooth and 900 megahertz spectrum to help Echo Ring tile trackers and other such devices. Now, I'm familiar with the mesh system that they're working with, or whatever. I'm an amateur radio operator. Whoops, this looks like it's upside down. Oh, it's upside down, backwards, and whatever. Whoops. Okay, this is not the camera setting, but there we go. I'm an amateur radio operator. November 0 Uniform Whiskey Yankee is my call sign. These are frequencies that ham radio operators are able to use, depending on, you can listen on all of which you can only transmit on certain frequencies, depending on your license privilege. I'm a technician, which is, whoops, okay, it's on the floor now. I hope you don't want to see that again. So, and ham radio operators have been messing with that because, and I'm not sure what now with all the modems you get, or routers, or whatever. But the early ones, and what were they called? The big in the all of the frequencies. There was a whole bunch of frequencies in there that were available, but Wi-Fi manufacturers and programmers and that type of stuff were only allowed to use a certain number of those frequencies. And all the devices and everything used those frequencies. But what was it? I'm thinking Hayes, not... Anyway, this brand of modems, other frequencies were available, and ham radio operators were authorized to use those frequencies, and I think on a shared basis with, I'm not sure, some type of industry or something, but on a shared basis, ham radio operators could receive and transmit. Everybody can receive if you have a receiver or whatever to do it, but they were able to transmit on them. And so what a lot of ham radio operators got into was hooking up a mesh system, so they could have the modem in their vehicle, and if they wanted, or at home, and they could use it for their Wi-Fi type of a system. I guess I shouldn't be talking about it since I don't know that much about it, but they could transmit on it and do stuff. Well, that's what Amazon is now doing. I'm not saying that they're using, I don't think they are using frequencies out. They're only using frequencies that they were allowed to use within that range that they were using anyway. But this is the first, so I'm not unfamiliar with this type of thing. But bang, I just was reading the local, see, did I leave it up here? Let's see. No, I don't think I did. The local thing. Somebody mentioned there, do you know that, Amazon is going to be able to use your Wi-Fi and you have to opt out. So, just comes as a surprise to me that I didn't know about this sooner, that it's popping up here at the last minute. Now, like I've walked around this, I think you've probably seen the videos if you watched enough. I've walked, through this apartment complex. And in the beginning, I mean, I just did it a few times out of curiosity with my cell phone, not this one, but one of my earlier cell phones. I've walked, through and seen, and now some of them, they, showed up as, I forget whether it said, not secure or something like that. I never tried because I don't care, I'm not sure if I could have accessed and used their Wi-Fi or not. An awful lot of people, I'm sure, when they get, new people who people don't really understand it, when they get they get into this or whatever, a lot of these devices, things come with a standard, from the factory. It'll probably tell you in the instructions, oh, okay, the password is such and such, but be sure and change that password. So, but when I've walked through, say, the parking lot here, the number of, everybody, it seems like, has, boom, boom, they're just scrolling on there. But hopefully, I'm sure the odds, though, are somebody's not, doesn't have proper security and is using the thing that came, when that. But, so just the vast number of Wi-Fi that is available. Well, now if these people have an Apple, or not an Apple, they have a Amazon device, an Echo device, and whatever. We have 2 Echo devices, or do we have 3? We have 2, one in the dining room and one in my room. Kind of a pain in the ass. If you watch my videos, I'll be making a video, and my ex-wife will send an announcement saying, could I come in, could you come in and get a bomb pop out of the freezer for me? She's confined to a wheelchair or to bed, a bed, or, and stuff like that. Even if I go in and say, hey, I'm going to make a YouTube video, and try not to make an announcement, but anyway. But, now I guess after you have to opt out of this Amazon thing if you don't, it just automatically takes effect. I will, after that, walk, and I'll maybe try to make a video for you, but I'll walk through and see how that goes. See, with my cell phone, I have this, set to, hey, use Wi-Fi. I have cell phone service. I have it with Google Fi, and I pay also for my grown sons, for my 44-year-old sons. I pay for his. Otherwise, he wouldn't bother to pay for it. And, it just drives me crazy. He'll go up to the little store or go someplace, and he won't even take his cell phone. And I don't know how many times he's asked, Dad, do you need me to get something for you? And I'll say, no. And then he walks out the door, and then, oh yeah, I'd like some gummy bears or something. And he doesn't have his phone. And of course, this isn't going to make any difference to him. But let me give you an example of before I was using Google Fi, I forget who I used, and then before that I used somebody, and I paid monthly, I think it was. And I didn't have them take out automatically. I just paid monthly. And I don't get out. I get out even less now. I don't get out and go anywhere. So I know at least twice. Once I had to go to the police station using an Uber to, I actually didn't have to bail the person out. I just had to go, make sure everything went okay. And so anyway, I used my cell phone, and of course I was using Wi-Fi. I mean, I didn't even think of that. I was just using Wi-Fi because the phone is set up to, use Wi-Fi first and then use, cell phone. So basically, the cell phone people, they got a good deal with me. I don't use any of their bandwidth at all. But anyway, so I got an Uber. Uber came, picked me up, took me. The person there did their paperwork and could go. So we walk outside, and I use my cell phone to call an Uber to come and pick us up and take us home. And I couldn't get a connection. I kept, what the heck is going on? It took me 30 minutes before I figured out, oh, my cell phone, I guess the end of the month came and I didn't pay, so I don't have cell phone service. I just have Wi-Fi service. And I had to go and try to use a phone inside to call a yellow cab who never showed up. They said they showed up, but they didn't show up. In that case, when I called, the yellow cab, I told the person that I had gone there to pick up, I said, let's just stand, outside the door in front of the police station, and which was City Hall and everything else, stand right there so that the officer in at the desk in there he can see us. Because I said, well, see if a cab shows up. And I think we waited 30 minutes or whatever, and went inside and said, could you call for us? And because they haven't shown up. So he called, and they said, well, the person wasn't there. And the person said, they were standing right in front of the door here of the, police station. I've been watching them, and there's no cab that showed up. And so I think they finally sent a cab who did show up. For those of you who have feelings about, like yellow cab or the regular cabs versus Uber and Lyft or whatever, I'm sorry. The regular cab service sucked, and it's always sucked. I spent 30 years working hospital security. Now I can understand why a cab might not want to come to the emergency room and pick up somebody. Maybe come to the front door and pick up somebody that's had a baby, but coming to the emergency room, and especially like late at night. But yeah, they wouldn't show up couldn't get him. Now, for 9 years, I worked at a small hospital, uh, not very far, like 15 minutes or, or even less. Yeah, you could get to the main hospital and our hospital, in like 15 minutes. And there was a town, Grandview was in between, and yeah, so the cab companies, I feel sorry for those drivers, and especially places like, I guess, New York City, where you buy a license, and licenses, there's only X number of them, and they become like gold or, bitcoins or something, of such value. If you have one of these and you can pass it on to your, your family, your son or whatever, or you can that can be like your retirement plan. They're worth so much money. I can understand that, that situation where those people are really, upset, but Uber and Lyft and those are, I'm not saying they're treating their employees, I mean their contract people. I'm not saying that those places are treating those people fairly. And I'm not saying that I'm not sure I ever had an Uber driver. I usually used Uber. I'm not sure that I ever had one of them get out of their vehicle and open the door for me. And I had twice that I remember, maybe more times. I have some mobility problems and problems getting into, arthritis or whatever, bending down to get into the vehicle, whatever, and the driver, just, sees me open up the door, I guess, or hears me, and waits, sees me, I guess, maybe getting in, and then just starts to drive off, with my foot still out the door and the door not closed or whatever. So, yeah, they could use so back to the I'll make a video when this thing kicks in. It'll be interesting to see what's going to happen. This is sort of a good whoops. This is sort of a good thing. Like when I walk from here, we're real close to the trash container. It's difficult for me to make it that far, for this apartment complex. But when I walk from here, I have, strong Wi-Fi connection. But then about the time I get to the trash containers, the Wi-Fi signal drops off and is gone. And with this sharing of your internet that's going to happen, and it's going to happen unless you opt out of it, it's, you're going to have access that you didn't have, before. And I guess what's really going to come in handy is going to be like with Ring doorbells and those types of things. Let's say that you have a large house, and you put up the Ring doorbell with a camera, or whatever. And let's say your Wi-Fi in your large house doesn't reach all the way over to on the other side of the garage or something. So it's not going to work unless you put some type of an extender unit to extend your Wi-Fi or something. But your next door neighbor over there on that side he has a good Wi-Fi signal. So you put your camera out there, which could also be a big help to your neighbor. You know, the camera, you might see something or prevent something from happening. But you put it there, but so you know, it would pick up, use your neighbor's Wi-Fi. Now, I'm sure this is set up where your neighbor is not going to be able to, you know, watch, you know, movies and, you know, do, I guess maybe they get a, you know, a little bit for a, because there's going to be controls, you know, in there. They're not going to, somebody's not going to be, but what I wanted to mention, like I said, I worked hospital security for 30 years, not counting the 10 years or more that I worked as a reserve officer 1 day a week for, you know, for years. And then there was other time, more than, you know, there's times that, because we didn't have full-time officers to begin with for years, there's times that they would ask me if I would come in and do an extra, do the day shift or do such and such or something. And there was once, they didn't call me, I called them. I was I was at that time acting director of security for a short period of time. The director of security was off for a month or something or other, I forget. And but anyway, I heard on the news that there'd been a bomb exploded in Raymore, Missouri. So I called, you know, dispatch. We did have a dispatcher finally. And I said, you know, identified myself and said, you know, do you need any help? And, you know, she said, just a second. And she asked the chief, and he said it'd help if I could come in. So I came in, and then I was put over at the command, you know, post. What it wasn't, like they were putting in some type of conduit or something underneath the ground for something. I forget what it was. And they were using dynamite rather than dig, using dynamite, and the guy blew himself up. So, but I'll put links, I'll put these links. Here's a list of devices that are going to be used or can be used, that will be linking in. The Ring floodlight, the Ring spotlight, camera wired, the Ring spotlight camera mount, Echo 3rd generation, Echo Dot 3rd generation and newer, Echo Dot for kids 3rd generation and newer, Echo Dot with clock 3rd. Well, I'm not going to go through this whole list. I'll put the links. Let's see what else. Now, what I wanted to mention, since there are a certain number of people out there, thank God the number is small, but when you have a nation of 330 million plus, a small percentage can be a massive number of people. Right now we have some people who need medications, and I don't know what they need. They're a pain in the butt, but they have, you know, they're not, it's not that they are, well, it's just that they're messed up. There are a lot of right-wing conservative people who believe, who are not going to get the vaccine for the virus because they think that Amazon and or the government or both are putting, when we get injected with the vaccine, that it's putting a tracking device in us. And I guess a device maybe that can transmit our most secret thoughts to the government or something. They honestly believe that, and they honestly need help. But those are the last people that are going to get, help, because they'd be afraid to go to the hospital, because what are they going to do at the hospital? They're going to inject something, and here we have this now, and this will set off a few of those people. And they're going to be using this as a talking point. See, we told you they were going to inject underneath our skin, a thing. They're going to, and so police and EMS and emergency responders are going to be dealing with these people. They're going to be getting a call, and somebody's going to, somebody. Going to be a call to somebody's house, and it'd be a family in distress. A family member is going to destroy maybe their television or their internet or their computer or the echo device. They're going to destroy it, and when the police show up, the person is going to be yelling and screaming incoherent, and I hope to God they don't, reach for some, try to attack the police or something and have it turn into even more of a tragedy. But you're going to be, these people are going to be raving and ranting that the government is, I don't remember actually ever seeing anybody. I may have had to deal with them because, man, I dealt with so many people. I don't remember anybody actually wearing a aluminum thing over their head. Had a guy one time that I contacted in a medical building, and this was when I was working in Orlando, Florida, at a hospital. And I went to make my rounds and went into the lobby of a medical building that it was about time to lock the doors on it, and there was a guy in the lobby, and I said, can I help you? And he says, no, I'm just waiting. I said, oh, what are you waiting for? My doctor, I have to see my doctor. And I said, oh, okay. And then it's kind of late. Is this where are you sure this is where you're supposed to meet your doctor? And he says, yeah, the doctor's going to cut my head off. And I said, oh, okay, well, this is the wrong place to be. You need to go over to the emergency room. I said, I'll walk you over there. I've mentioned that hospital, by the way, before, the one in Orlando. Actually, I don't think it was in Orlando. I think it was right outside Orlando. It wasn't Kissimmee, which I think I'm pronouncing wrong. Anyway, that was, and I'd worked at that point 30 years hospital security, always in-house, I wasn't we weren't contract employees, we worked for the hospital just like everybody else, whether they were in food service or housekeeping or x-ray techs or what, we were, but this hospital, they had this system, I forget the name of the thing, kind of neat in a way, but the radio that we had was also like a cell phone, Well, they had cell phones then. But this hospital, believe it or not, if you were a supervisor, a department head, or whatever, you had one of these transceivers. I guess you want, it wasn't exactly it was a cell phone, I guess. I don't know. I was interested in it because it was an interesting technology. But if you were a supervisor at a certain level, you were required to take that home with you and monitor it. I was, I was, I couldn't fucking believe it. There's no way, there's no way that this one guy who was in charge of maintenance and plant operations or whatever. And so he was like the person that we had to report through. He wasn't a director of security, but he actually was, and he wasn't too sharp. I mean, he was sharp about, I'm sure, the plant operations for all that kind of stuff, but he didn't know, But I'm getting sidetracked, but so they would call me on the thing, like the head ER nurse had a thing, and she or he would call security, and the switchboard had, one of the devices, but the guy who was at home, he actually was not at home. Anyway, security was not allowed to be in the hospital. I mean, we could go in and, everybody else had a, employee ID card, and they could get in every place. And we didn't have we had an employee ID card, but we had one, of course there was only one of us on duty, but they, so we were not supposed to, we could be in the hospital when we came on duty to get our keys and to get our radio, and we could go in to eat, and we could go in if something came up and they called us, but we couldn't go in and just make patrols through the hospital. They wanted us out in the parking lot. Not because they were having difficulty in the parking lot, but because they'd had difficulty when they had the previous security companies, and they'd gone through a whole list of them. And I was actually, when I was sent out there, I was actually from the contract guard agency. I was sent out there to be in charge, except the guy that was to be in charge of our, and on the way out there, the lieutenant or whatever said, "Oh, man, so glad to get you, out there, because we've had a lot of problems, and you'll be able to straighten things out." And then he told me some of the problems that they'd had, and well, not that they had, but that all the previous security companies had, and those people got replaced, and I told him, I said, "No, there is no way. Once these things happen, even if a new company comes in, there's no way you can repair the damage. These employees will tell that story forever, and they'll never forget it." And sure enough, when I went out there, that was, like there was an outside smoking area where the employees could go out and smoke, and a female head nurse in charge of the emergency room, who I cannot believe could be in charge of anything or even be a nurse, because she was that stupid. So she'd be out there smoking away, and she'd say, "Oh, the previous whatever, blah blah," and she'd tell the story, which probably was true, and there was no way you could repair that damage done. One guy, a shipment of laptops was delivered to the hospital, and certain employees, I guess probably department heads and somebody, where to get these laptops. Well, he took a few of them home with him, And so when he came back the next day to work, the police were just waiting for him. I don't know why they didn't go to his home, but the police were waiting for him. I guess they maybe wanted him to be taken into custody where employees could see, and he was marched out in his uniform and with the handcuffs on. And then at 3 or 4 a.m. in the morning, the hospital administrator came in. Okay, came in at 3 or 4 a.m. in the morning to check and see if the meeting room was ready for a meeting that was going to happen. What kind of a hospital administrator has to come in at 3 or 4 a.m. in the morning to check to make sure the meeting room is ready? Somebody who should not be a hospital administrator, you know. And he came in and he went to the meeting room, and, you know, of course he had a master key, grand master key, and he went in and he's in there looking around, and then he hears a noise in a closet or something like that, and he goes over and opens up the door, and there's a security officer having sex with a lady from the housekeeping department. And the security officers, you know, I don't know what the hospital administrator said, but the hospital security officer says, "Who in the hell are you?" You know, and the hospital administrator says something to, I don't remember the exact, you know, I don't remember the exact story, but it's something that, you know, took the ID card off the security officer and said, I'm the hospital administrator, and I just fired your ass, you know. Truth is, since the guy was from a contract security agency, he went back, I'm sure, to the, I mean, they may have fired him, you know, but he could have very easily just gone back to the contract guard and said, okay, well, we need you over at this other account. Go over there, you know, so. Anyway, stories like that. Oh, the reason I meant, yeah. Oh, okay. Let me jump back a little bit. So I took this, I remember I just ran into this guy who's there in a medical building to have his head cut off. So I took the radio, I'm walking with him, and I called the emergency room and said, I'm heading over to the emergency room, and I've got a gentleman with me who says that he's has an appointment to have his head cut off, and I'll be bringing him to the emergency room. So I go into the emergency room. There's nobody waiting there for me, nobody, whatever, it's just business as usual, which is you go up to a window, plexiglass or whatever, and there's a clipboard laying there, and you're supposed to write down, let's see, date, you know, name, a reason for visit, chest pain, sweating, feeling that I'm going to die, and then you lay it in, you know, then you lay it in the tray. And then there's like this little, you know, thing that, you know, you put in the tray, and there's this little, like a room. And then there's glass on the other side, and there's, in this case, it was a, you know, not the charge nurse, but the triage nurse. And there was a guy, you know, he was looking around, and so of course, I didn't write down, chest pain, diaphoretic, you know, whatever. I wrote down, you know, I said, what's your name, you know? And I put down, here to have his head cut off, and I put it in the, you know, tray, and just stood there, and finally the guy comes out. Oh, okay, you know. Well, anyway, you see the way this place operated. By the way, this is one of these for-profit hospital systems, and it's the one that, I forget the one where they committed so much fraud that the federal government fined them tons of money and put restrictions on. And one of the restrictions was that even though I was not a in-house security person, you know, I was a contract. I still had to go through the new employee orientation, which was 4 or 5 days. One day was mandated by the federal government. You will spend one entire day. Here is the documentation, and you will tell all these new employees the following. You will explain what your corporation did that was illegal and how you're not allowed to do that kind of stuff. And you will give them the phone number that they can call to the federal government and report any violations that you are making, the hospital is making, and you will inform these employees that they will receive a percentage of how much you're stealing from the Medicare, Medicaid, whatever the program is, and you will you will get that much money as a commission. I mean, that type of stuff. So, and this is the hospital system that the guy who was in charge, of course, when this happened, the guy who was in charge was forced to resign. And I think him and his father, I think, actually started this hospital corporation that owned, I don't know, hundreds or thousands of hospitals. So he had to resign. And of course he received, I forget how many millions of dollars in a golden parachute or whatever they call it. And then he was elected governor of Florida. Republican governor of Florida, of course. Did I need to say Republican? By the way, as Republican governor of Florida, since he cares so much about his constituents and his people, he decided, of course, that the people who were getting government benefits, so that would be, wouldn't be Social Security, it would be Medicaid and the other food stamps, stuff like that, and maybe unemployment pay, I don't know. He decided, he got the state legislature, Republican of course, to pass a thing saying that they all had to have drug screens before they could get benefits. And by the way, he happened to own, the governor, a whole chain of laboratories, medical laboratories that administered that your doctor would send you to or something, maybe to have, or a new when you were going to go to work for someplace that a company would send you to have a drug screen done or something like that. So he just happened to own, and so they. Now I'm not sure. I can't believe, but it was a Republican. Florida's a Republican state, and the legislature is Republican, and the governor is Republican. So maybe they did send these people who were applying for benefits to one of his labs to have the lab work done. You'd think that, but they probably went ahead. That part I don't know about, but I was, blogging then, more, WordPress type, written blogging more so than YouTubing type of thing. And I said, they're going to find that very few of those people are, that want food stamps or Medicaid or what, they're more concerned getting food for their families and whatever, And then, of course, I said also, of course, if you're one of those people doing drugs, a lot of them won't go apply because they know they have to take a drug test. But after I forget how long they did this, and finally, I believe they stopped doing it. Because what they found was those people weren't using, they weren't using drugs. And the ones that were using, came back, the percentage of the people who were using drugs, who were trying to get food stamps or Medicaid or whatever the benefits were, the percentage of, and I can't remember what the numbers were, but let's say if you just went out on the street, or you went and stood in front of Merrill Lynch, Pearson Smith, or you stood in front of a corporate, a financial corporation, a bank or something like that, and you just take, okay, you all work at, this financial institution. Okay, we want 100 of you, And if you tested them, let's say they came out, well, if you did that, from what we know in the past, it'd be like, well, the number would be way high, but I'm not going to do that, play that game, okay? But let's just say, okay, 5% using drugs of these financial, bankers and stockbrokers and those kind of, 5% of them are. Okay, then you take, 100% of the people who, showed up to try to get food for their children and their, try to get some help for, some of them living in cars or whatever, and you come back with the results and it's like 1% or something. So anyway, finally the state of Florida quietly just, it cost us more to, drug screen these people, and with less results, So, I think I got a little bit off topic, or did I? Was there somehow was that tied into something? I don't know. Oh, anyway, I was talking about, I could not, that hospital was unbelievably bad. And it was a bad situation. Well, I know what I was going to mention. Yeah. Don't know why I was going to mention it, but I do sort of know now. But anyway, so that guy I took over there who wanted his head cut off. But I was I was outside this one time, and a car pulls in real quick. The guy gets out, and he had a elderly woman who I assumed, I was correct, was his mother. So I said, I'll get you a wheelchair, and I grabbed a wheelchair and brought it out, helped get her in. I said, what's the problem? And he said she's having chest pains, and he didn't say diaphoretic, but whatever. And so I took her in, and the procedure was, they were to go, they were supposed to go to this window and write chest pain, diaphoretic, feels impending doom, whatever. But I saw that the person back there, if I'd have filled the paperwork out, Now, I had a key, of course, that I could unlock a door over there and go right into the emergency, side door into the emergency room or whatever. But I knew, So what I did is I just took the wheelchair, and there was like 4 or 5 windows of clerks sitting there, and I said, this lady's having, chest pain and whatever, and she said, well, I'll hit the code for you, and she hit the thing, and the door unlocked, and I went in, pushed in, and there was that head nurse, female head nurse, who was in charge, I think, of all 3 shifts of the ER. And she said, why did you bring her in here? She should check in. And I said, well, she's having chest pain, blah, 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 blah. And then I just went on out. So a little bit later, when I was out there, that head nurse was sitting out there in the smoking area and called me on. I thought, okay, here it goes. I know. Don't you ever do that again. And I said, do what? I knew, of course, what, you know. I said, do what? Bring a patient in there like that. They're supposed to, you know, check in. I said, well, the lady was having chest pain, and blah, 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 you know, and she said, no, she was, you know, she was okay. They couldn't know that she was okay unless they would, no matter what, you know, they could hook up an EKG and do all that kind of stuff. They wouldn't be able to tell until she had lab work done and was admitted, and the lab work would come back the next day, you know. The next day they would know whether, and I forget what it would be, you know, but they couldn't. It's not, I mean, the lab work would get the results right away, but they're not going to know until the next, you know. I didn't say anything. I just, you know, God help me. But, oh, the thing with the person taking the radio, you know, home, what? There's no way. When I worked as in-house security, there, you know, I did 4 grievances at this one hospital that I worked at, and the director of security, he lost every time, and he was a smart man. But, you know, I've mentioned this before, and I did not know this guy, you know, who was a smart man, the director of security, really good with paperwork, all that kind of stuff. But he lied all the time about stuff, and which I couldn't. Why did he lie about something that was so easily detected that he was lying? Why did I couldn't understand that? And then there was his constant bragging about how much money he had, and just all kinds of stuff. And and then fairly recently, with our last president, the books and the stories and the medical people and that kind of stuff, psychiatric people, you know, described his problems, and then it was like, oh my God, that was Mr. Ross that I worked for 5.5 years. And I tried to deal with him, but I couldn't understand, why does he do the things that he does when he is actually a smart guy? And then I've mentioned, I think in a recent video, if I had known what I know now, I wouldn't have worked 5.5 years. I would have been out of there and not trying to deal with this guy, because I was trying to deal with the guy and I couldn't understand, you know, why he did the things that he did. But once I found out recently, you know, with our former president, Donald Trump, if I had known that, I would have taken another. I was offered another job, at least one other job, which would have been a nice job, but I didn't take it. Well, I was offered 2 jobs. I mean, I was offered a job as a police officer every time an opening became available for a long time when they started hiring, but I couldn't afford to take the job because they didn't pay that well at that time. Now they're paying great, you know. But so now back to my other point that I got sidetracked. So you knew how the emergency room was. Anyway, we weren't supposed to be in the hospital unless we were called, which I think there was no orientation where they had me working inside and I was the guy in charge of our, the contract people, you know. They didn't orientate me and say, okay, you're going to work inside the hospital, because security didn't work inside the hospital unless you were called. They didn't orientate me and say, you know, so you would know, so I would know like at the other hospitals that I worked at, like this one hospital that I worked at, I was the fire marshal or whatever, and I was in charge of, there were 3 people who made all the keys. I didn't physically make them, I just had the authority to, you know, authorize keys to be made for people who have, you know, I mean, I could tell you in the entire 5-story hospital with a multiple, I could tell you, in the administrator's office there was a closet, and I could tell you what was inside the closet. I mean, not personal files, but I could tell you that there was a standpipe in there, or there was a such and such a connection, or a circuit port, or, I could, whatever. But this, after 30 years working hospital security, and I'm down at this hospital, and not really allowed inside, except to go in to eat or the bathroom, or it's a wonder they didn't put a porta potty for us outside. Guess they didn't get the idea. But so anyway, I did walk in, of course, and check the emergency room. When I'd make my rounds, I would check the emergency room. I mean, the lobby of the emergency room. I wouldn't go in the back, So anyway, I checked the emergency room area, and I saw some guys in there, and I thought, these guys are going to be trouble. So I went and I'm standing outside the door, outside. Because if I'd been standing around in there, one of these assholes that worked, would have said, why is security inside? They're not supposed to be in here, Probably gave them the opportunity to steal drugs out of the out of the things, or do something else they weren't supposed to be doing. But anyway, that's either here nor there. But I'm standing right outside. So then there's a call. Oh man, I get fucking pissed just thinking about this now. Get a call from the head ER person who had the radio telephone. Security, get into the emergency room right away. Don't you delay. Get in here right away. Oh, fuck. I knew what it was, so I didn't answer back on the radio. I just stepped inside, and right away I just told them, okay, out, to the guys, and they're, and then as they're walking away, they're turning around, coming back, towards me and everything. I just keep walking off the property. Get out of here. And then on this radio thing, the guy in charge of plant operations, quote, security, calls on the radio. Security, why didn't you answer that call on the, I thought about going inside the emergency room and find whoever had that walkie-talkie and give them, but, give them a piece of my mind. But I didn't, because I knew another security company would be kicked out, and it'd be the other guys, the other guys would have been hurt, the other security officers that worked. We only had one on each, one around the clock. But I was hot. It's a wonder I didn't go in there and strangle somebody. I think this all started because what I was talking about was this thing here. For some reason, this police officers and other people, emergency room people, EMS, fire people are going to be responding. This is going to set a bunch of people off. The ones who are marginally sane. Because this is going to fall right into the government's monitoring us. They're planting chips in our head, and I have to wear this aluminum. And I don't remember anybody actually wearing an aluminum thing. They might have had one on underneath their hat. But I think this is actually a good thing. But I could be wrong. the, I mean, I pay for Wi-Fi service, or I mean, I pay for cell phone service that I really don't use. Because I'm using the Wi-Fi thing on my phone all the time. If I go outside and go away, of course, it kicks over to Google Fi. And, but I think it's going to help people extend the range of their surveillance, well, I shouldn't say surveillance, that's going to set people off, but their door cams and that, that kind of stuff. And it will be interesting. I will do a video once this thing goes into effect. I'll walk around the parking lot. I guess what I should do is walk around the parking lot before this happens and just pull up the list of Wi-Fi signals. Let's see. I don't even know how to do that now. Let's see. Oh, okay. I guess I could go to, God, I don't even know how to do it. That shows you how much maybe settings? Let's see here. Settings. Starts with an S, I think. Yeah, here, whoops. I hit something else instead. Okay, settings. Wi-Fi. Okay. Okay. Howard connected. Howard guest available. AT&T, blah, blah, blah. My Spectrum. These are all ones that are actually, within range, My Spectrum. SPC. My Spectrum. Let's see. R. Howard. That's my grandson who lives in an apartment over there. Now the signal is really getting low. Here's one that says My Spectrum 5G, My Spectrum 2G. Anyway, it keeps changing on me. Here's one that's Samsung. Well, these, okay, now Samsung Gallery and whatever. Now the ones are no signal being indicated. But, so what I'll do is I'll make a video walking around before the change takes place, and then I'll see how many, what they show up as. And I wonder under that circumstances, that's not the way they intended for it to work, but I wonder if I would hit, so we'll check that out later on. Anyway, thank you very much for watching, and bye-bye. Oh, if you could, please use one of my Amazon links. I could use some money, some commissions. It doesn't cost you anything, just use the link and go like jimhoward.me. Wait a minute, that wouldn't, yeah, that would work. Yeah, jimhoward.me. And let me pull it up for you. Let's see here. That's a secure link too, by the way. It's one of those links that's HPPP, S, so. Now you're there at you're there at Amazon, so anything that you purchase, I will get a small commission. As long as you don't log, just every time if you're going to go, I'm going to go check and see about such and such at Amazon, please try to remember to use my link, or make a thing for put it on your bookmarks, or put a thing on your desktop, and because I need to go in and edit and change the, I need to change the, I haven't updated this in quite a while. But anyway, it doesn't matter, you don't have to, even go to this, it's, I don't think I have the best one. Is this the one? No, I need to add that one that's really great. I need to add that. Maybe delete some of these. Anyway, thank you very much for watching.